They marched into the war, not for freedom, but for empires that never saw them as equals. Over 1 million African soldiers in the First World War. Yet most of the world doesn't know their names. Their courage helped shape history, but history erased them. This is the untold story of the African soldiers of World War I, the Forgotten Warriors. When World War I broke out in 1914, Europe called upon its colonies, especially in Africa, to provide manpower. But this was not a request. It was a demand. France, Britain, and Germany all had vast colonial holdings, and they didn't hesitate to use African lives as military fuel. In French West Africa, the Tirailleurs Sénégalais were conscripted, sometimes forcefully, into service. In British colonies, the King's African Rifles were raised in East Africa. The Germans had their own force, the Schutztruppe, mostly made of African conscripts. Many were promised payment, land, or even freedom. But the reality was very different. The African soldiers were often treated as less than human, even by the armies they fought for. On the Western Front, many were thrown into suicidal missions. In East Africa, they faced guerrilla war, brutal weather, and famine. Disease, especially malaria and dysentery, killed more African soldiers than enemy bullets. While white soldiers had boots, gear, and rations, African troops often fought barefoot. Many carried outdated rifles or no weapons at all. Worse still, European officers saw them as expendable. A French general once said, "Let the black troops advance. If they die, at least no Europeans will be lost." Yet even in the face of racism and impossible odds, they fought. And they fought bravely. In 1916, the Battle of Tanga in German East Africa saw African soldiers stand their ground under heavy fire. In the Battle of Verdun, Tirailleurs Sénégalais held the lines through freezing winters, earning the nickname the Lions of the Western Front. Some led assaults that broke German trenches. Others saved wounded comrades under fire. But most went unrecognized. One Senegalese soldier was awarded the Croix de Guerre posthumously. His name? Lost in the archives. When the war ended in 1918, parades were held in Paris, London, and Berlin, but not in Lagos, Bamako, or Nairobi. African veterans returned home with physical and emotional scars and no compensation. In 1944, when surviving Tirailleurs in Senegal protested for overdue pensions, they were massacred by the very French army they served. It was called the Tirailleurs Massacre. Dozens were killed. The survivors were silenced. Colonial governments tried to erase the chapter entirely. Today, their graves lie scattered across Europe and Africa, often unmarked, often ignored. Statues of generals remain, but the men who bled in silence? Forgotten. Only in recent decades have historians begun to uncover their stories. Piece by piece, photo by photo. In France, memorials now include the Tirailleurs. In Senegal, families still pass down their stories. In Nigeria, oral traditions preserve names the empire tried to erase. These are not just soldiers. They were fathers, sons, farmers, poets, human beings. And their story is not over. Because we remember now. If you believe these stories deserve to be told, if you believe forgotten heroes deserve a voice, subscribe now and help bring their memory back to life. Join us every week for true war stories, real history, and powerful truths the world needs to hear.